Awkwardness can be an attribute to discovering queerness. I think that's the first thing I have to say as I'm trying to deconstruct Jerrod Carmichael's new venture. But before I go deep into Jerrod Carmichael's reality show, I want to first set the stage for how Jerrod operates as a comedian, and also as a storyteller. So let's start from the beginning. Jerrod Carmichael has been a pretty strange comedic figure in the scene for quite some time now. I actually remember him being in Neighbors not too long ago, but it was like a decade ago actually, but he was also in that short-lived sitcom by NBC called The Jerrod Carmichael Show. And that sitcom was basically a carbon copy of The Bill Cosby Show, except it was more modernized. He also directed an underrated comedy called On the Count of Three, which everyone should check out because I think it's one of the most unique comedies out there. And it deals a lot with like themes of death and friendship. And after his sitcom got canceled, he went out his way to just make a bunch of like stand-up specials. And he even also made a short documentary feature called Home Videos, which you can find on HBO. That documentary is basically the blueprint for his most recent documentary series, which is called The Jerrod Carmichael Reality Show. And even before that, his last stand-up special, Nathaniel, dealt with a lot of key issues that are exemplified in his docuseries. In Nathaniel, he tells a story about his elongated experiences with sexuality and family. And even in the middle of the special, he tells the audience that he's queer and also has a weird history behind the name Nathaniel. In some sort of strange catharsis, Jerrod basically spills his guts to a live audience without hesitation. And that hesitation leads more into an honest telling of his life as of right now. Case in point, this is basically leading up to what is now his reality show on HBO. So when Jerrod came out in his Nathaniel special, things got actually pretty interesting. If you can trace back to Jerrod's comedic history, or his voice history in general, he was on Tyler the Creator's amazing album Igor as Igor's spiritual mind in the interludes. Before that, Jerrod hosted a conversation with Tyler on his album Flower Boy, which you can find on YouTube. And what does this actually have to do with Jerrod? Well, folks, basically this is where the fun begins because let me tell you, some revelations were revealed earlier this week as I'm recording this video. So on Jerrod Carmichael's reality show, the inaugural episode actually, it was revealed that Jerrod had feelings for Tyler the Creator and he wanted to find a way to tell him how he feels about it. In the beginning of the episode, Jerrod paints a picture of how stressful this feeling has become over the past couple of years. He's been mentally preparing for the day to lay out this feeling towards Tyler, and he's been trying to find a way to execute that conversation in general. So it's also revealed that his conversation is taking place right around the time where he won an Emmy for his stand-up special. So the immense pressure of all of this is consuming the whole inside of Jerrod's mind. Even going further, Jerrod came out at a time where his straining relationship with his parents started to boil. His mother is deeply religious and conservative, while his father is completely out of the picture. So all of this sets center stage for Jerrod's reality show, and this is why I think this first episode is really, really great. So here's the meat of all of this. As time has told us, Tyler the Creator is such a massive troll. A great comedic rapper who knows how to troll his audience into more hilarity. So when I first heard about this thing, I actually briefly laughed at it because the response to Jerrod's confession to his feelings is pretty much a Tyler thing. And Tyler's response to the confession was just like, you're a stupid bitch. And if you know how Tyler operates as an artist, you know that this is just a normal response for Tyler. Well, the plot thickens because after this conversation happens in text form, Jerrod later in the episode decides to set up a dinner for Tyler to really pick his brain out and try to understand why he wants to really confess his feelings towards Tyler. And shit gets even weirder and kind of depressing. Now, side note, I completely understand what Jerrod is trying to do here. I, for once, just like many other people, have gone through these weird, awkward situations where I have to find a perfect way to respond to any deadly manners. And those deadly manners aren't completely deadly. They're just normal manifestations that can be solved by talking it through. So when Jerrod in this episode is really struggling to get his words out, I actually feel every inch of his body and the way his body is like moving throughout his confessed moments. And his whole demeanor is basically him like laying low with his head down and just brief silences between getting your words out. And at that point, Tyler just walks into this shit and he's completely ready to be like just a normal troll about it. But I think what is really gutting is the way Jerrod as trying to get a response out of Tyler. And in a different response to the voice note he got earlier, I think this awkwardness is deeply tied to the core fundamental of being queer, which is kind of weird because, like, in a sense where you've just come out and you're trying to, like, be normal about your feelings, there's some sort of, like, stress that comes upon trying to have these types of feelings and kind of, like, express them in a way where it's more like adult, if that makes sense. And I think it's also due to the fact that we've been kind of like closeted for the most of our lives. So like when we like come out, we try to like be more adult about our situations, but like really we're still kind of like kids because we haven't like mentally developed types of relationships in the queer world. And obviously that's due to being like a late bloomer. So there's basically no starting date to when you come out and how you navigate your queerness. And it just happens. So when you're thrown into these like dark holes of like relationship cultures and just relationships in general, you don't really have any manuals to the shit. And I think Jerrod earlier in this episode is still exploring his sexuality and is constantly going on Grindr and just hooking up with random guys. And this is like in the first episode alone. And it basically sets the stage for Tyler's confession, as Tyler himself is trying to like be more open because he is open. He came out himself a long time ago, so now he's just like completely like an open person. But also he has a way of expressing his own feelings, and obviously it comes out as pretty awkward, mainly because Jerrod is completely new to this shit. So Jerrod is just out there trying to be open, but like he also has a way of being self-deprecating and kind of awkward in a sense of his own demeanor, if that makes sense. So when the episode ends, it ends in such a chaotic way and actually pretty satisfying way if you kind of like look into it, because that's how you almost feel like when you try to like really confess your feelings towards another person that you really like. And on top of that, like this is basically Jerrod's like operatic like nature with his like storytelling and how he operates as a comedian and as a storyteller. Some might say that either one of them are pretty mature or pretty immature, but I think they're on a different astral plane. Tyler is more of a troll and will just do anything to get his own way, or he'll just do it completely his own thing, while Jerrod will just wallow in this particular sadness for a bit, and then he'll use it for material for his show, which is why I'm making this video, because I think it's like really brilliant. And I think the way Jerrod like picks his own like ideas and brain like mush, I don't know how to explain it, but like it's really interesting for him to kind of like pick a lot of like these like dark themes of family and sexuality and kind of apply it to like real life, and also try to like find ways to navigate like this darkness that's inside of him. And I think this first episode of this docuseries is quite brilliant, and it's giving me Rami and Louie vibes without it being completely serialized, because it's literally a documentary. And I think seeing this like play out in real time, it helps with like the awkwardness, and you can like cringe at like a lot of the stuff that's happening in real time, but like also you can relate to like every single thing that Jerrod goes through and with his dealings with like sexuality and like mental health. So I can't wait to see what he does next with the next couple episodes. Again, I think Jerrod is pretty brilliant as a comedian and a storyteller. I can't wait to see what he does next and what he does next with the next couple of episodes. I'll definitely be watching. But yeah, that's like my little spiel about the Jerrod Carmichael reality show. I hope you guys enjoy this video. You can like and subscribe. My content is going to be completely all over the place, so you're just going to see a bunch of videos that are like very like widely varied. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Take care.